more life out of the Pirellis this afternoon. Live pictures are ready for an event like no other, really, for Formula 1. Logan Sargent starts his home race from 20th on the grid. Oscar Piastri, 19th for McLaren. Lance Stroll's worst quali of the year leaves him in 18th position. Yuki Tsunoda lines up P17. It's Lando Norris, means both McLarens are out in Q1 for the first time since Brazil 2018. Nick de Vries, the lead out for Tauri on the grid for the first time. P14 is Joe Guan Yu. Lewis Hamilton going out of Q2 for the first time since Imola last year. Then it's Hulkenberg in 12th. Alex Albon missing out on Q3 by half a tenth. Valtteri Bottas making that session for the first time this year. The big shock of qualifying, Max Verstappen in 9th with no time set thanks to the error. Then it's Esteban Ocon in 8th and Charles Leclerc P7 after he concluded qualifying and hit the barriers. George Russell goes from 6th. Pierre Gasly gets his season's best with 5th position. The best ever Sunday start for Haas thanks to Kevin Magnussen's mighty lap in 4th. Sainz goes from P3 and it's 37 years of age, the average age of those at the front of the field. Fernando Alonso next to Sergio Perez. The last time that happened was in Jeddah. The last time that happened, Fernando Alonso took the lead at the first turn. Let's bring you up to the commentary box then on what is set to be some Grand Prix Sunday. We welcome myself, Alex Shakes, 13-time Grand Prix winner David Coulthard and 6-time IndyCar winner James Hinchcliffe for a race that promises oh so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many unknowns. You know, after what happened yesterday in qualifying, last night, the threat of rain today, there's a lot of things that we still need to learn. Not a lot of running in the long run, practice on Friday, so there's just too many question marks. I think it's going to be a great Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, actually. You know, we've got so
εσύ γιατί μπήκες και βλέπεις φόρμουλα, τι γίνεται, είναι κάποιο είδους τρολάρισμα. Πω πω, μαλάκα και σήμερα θέλω να δω το Dungeons and Dragons, αλλά δεν το είδα, το δω λογικά το βράδυ.
Yeah, all eyes are going to be on that front row, leaving the front of the Fernando Alonso. When I spoke to him earlier, was talking that it's a bit dusty, a bit dirty on the inside of the grid. Well,
a bit dirty.
That because one, there's not been a lot of racing here. Two, we've had some rain.
Καλά, ναι, ότι έχω χρόνο να τα κάνω. Αν και αύριο πρέπει να πάω ο ΑΕΒ, φίλε. Πρέπει να πάω ο ΑΕΒ. Πρέπει να πάω να βγάλω το τέτοιο. Το δελτίο ανεργίας, την κάρτα ανεργίας δηλαδή. Βασικά να πάω στον ΑΕΔ να μου δώσει κάτι κλειδάριθμους για να μπορώ να το κάνω online. Και επίσης πρέπει να... Τι άλλο πρέπει να κάνω? Πρέπει να κάνω και την αίτηση για το ταμείο ανεργίας στο τρίμηνο. Φαντάζεται τώρα, το οποίο θέλει εκαθαριστικό του 2021. Εγώ μεταξύ δεν ξέρω τώρα καν που το έχω αυτό. It's okay though. Μαλάκα, το στομάχι μου είναι χάλια. Ματζαράπης τους τα σήκωσε. Μαλάκα, Ματζαράπης τους τα σήκωσε πάλι σήμερα. Έχει βαρεθεί να κερδίζει. Κάτσε πούντο. Ultra big win, 323.
Yeah, I tell you what, we've got Perez trying to psych out Alonso already. Alonso can't keep up on the parade lap.
He has bolted and now he has parked up as he brings the car through the long turn 12. And the crowd here, a sellout, a 270,000 sellout across the 3 days. We've had people in the Hard Rock Stadium watching the drivers in the paddock, which is very, very unusual. The previous wins in the United States, it's been the Max Verstappen show. He wins from 9th today. He is the first driver to do that since 1984, which was Niki Lauda at the French Grand Prix. We've seen him win.
Κάτι πρέπει να αλλάξω εδώ πέρα, μου φαίνεται.
We have indeed. Real racing machine. He's not only, you know, some drivers are famed for their single lap speed, and if you qualify, they pretty much race there. But others are known for their ability to get down and dirty and find their way through the field, and that used to be a criticism of Sebastian Vettel in his early part of his career, that he could only really do it from the front. I think that was you know, dispel a little bit later in his career. But there's certainly those that are more natural racers. Lewis, incredibly good at keeping out of trouble when he finds himself in the pack. And there's others that, like Magnussen, for instance.
Δεν έχουν ξεκινήσει ακόμα ρε μαλάκα το τέτοιο. Δεν θα πήγαινα, θα ζήταγα από Βιλ. Μαλάκα, το γελάς. Το γελάς, το παιδί βάζει στην άκρη 1.000 εκατομμύρια το μήνα ρε μαλάκα. Δεν ξέρει τι τέτοιο, δεν ξέρει τι έχει. Μαλάκα τσιγάρα δεν πληρώνει, γιατί είναι πάλι στο Παπαστράτο και κάποιος του δίνει τα τσιγάρα του ακόμα μαλάκα. Δουλεύει 2 δουλειές, ο Παπαστράτος του δίνει 1.000 καθαρά και από το μαγαζί βγάζει 100 εκατομμύρια τη μέρα. Μαλάκα το παιδί, δεν ξέρω γιατί ρε φίλε δεν έχει νοικιάσει βίλα. Είναι... Καλά, παίζει σε άλλη λίγα ρε μαλάκα, παίζει σε άλλη λίγα από εμάς, δεν μπορούμε να το διανοηθούμε ρε φίλε.
Interesting, Lewis doing a very late bite point find on his clutch there.
Here we go. The green flag at the back means it is time. Here come the lights for the start of the Grand Prix. And for Formula One in Miami, it's race on. And we've got a good getaway for Perez. He chops across Alonso and he maintains the lead into turn one. Alonso tried that outside line. It won't work.
Κοίτα εδώ οι κουβάδες της Αλφα Τάουρι. Εντάξει, ναι ρε μαλάκα, έκανε καλύτερη κίνηση ο Πέρες από τον Αλόνσο, εντάξει, οκ. Δεν είδα τι τέτοιο ρε μαλάκα, δεν είδα τι ελαστικά έχουνε. Καλά θα το δω τώρα, εντάξει, θα το βγάλει.
He took that outside line, but there wasn't the same commitment that we'd normally see from him. So taking definitely a longer-term view, there was a little bit of action down towards the back, and there was no contact, I don't believe. But so far, clean on this opening lap.
I think it was maybe Nick DeVries that got a little bit hot in there into turn 1. Maybe some help because he's fallen all the way back to last as we see a lot of action here through turn 11.
Verstappen making the move on Esteban Ocon. So Verstappen back to
Αλλά ο Ocon, εντάξει, ρουφάει ψωλές άλλη μια φορά, σε έναν ακόμα αγώνα. Έχουμε ο Ocon να ρουφάει ψωλές, απίστευτο.
Side by side back there, did you see that, DC?
Yeah, it's very impressive the way these guys, with all this fuel on board, they do limited running with full tanks. And it really is you know, you put it in the cockpit, you run that car with heavy fuel, it just doesn't...
Νωρίς 19ος.
Everything's different. The brake points are different. The cornering speeds are different. It really changes the feel of the race car. So for them to have to do these sort of exploratory laps at race pace, huge challenge.
Exactly, the opening lap of the Grand Prix that Sergio Perez wanted.
Ωραία, οκ.
They were. Gasly gaining that position up the road, so did George Russell. Move in the background, AlphaTauri fighting into turn 1. I'm sure we'll clear it up. Big winner, Oscar Piastri. Up 5 places after a really torrid qualifying session.
Ο Μπότας πως πήρε 2 θέσεις ρε μαλάκα. Και ο Magnussen έχασε 3.
Magnussen losing 3 positions there. Charles Leclerc was also able to get past him on that opening lap. So disappointment for the Danish driver as Perez tries to break away from Fernando Alonso. Crucially, he's already
Και τον τέτοιον τον έχουν
out of DRS range. This is a huge opportunity with his teammate with quite a lot of work to do to force his way through the field. There he is, the reigning world champion.
Κάτσε ρε φίλε, αυτό εδώ γιατί δεν δείχνει τίποτα.
And one more place picked up again here, runs a little bit deep but manages to keep it on track. So that seems to be a favoured overtaking spot for him. He's got that straight line speed advantage even without the DRS.
It's without the DRS and it's on the hard compound tires picking off these cars on medium. So that's an ominous for everybody else that he's already able to make that kind of progress before DRS is even enabled.
Yeah, I think that also as a race car driver, you've got to look at the big picture. You know, if you're Magnussen right now, your race is not with Verstappen. So why would you want to defend too much? Because you never go faster defending. You only lose laps.
That could well play into Verstappen's hands as he comes over the line with the rest of the field in a few moments' time. That equation changes when you get to the likes of Charles Leclerc, and the one I think we're all interested to see when he goes wheel to wheel with George Russell, if the Red Bull has the pace that we expect. Logan Sargent is the Williams driver in the pits. He's just roared past our commentary box, so he's in very, very early. You wouldn't expect anyone to be making a stop until lap 13, but Sargent forced to come in, and that will be unscheduled.
Looks like wing end plate is broken.
Yeah, it's at the left front of the front wing there, a little bit of damage. So going to be a wing change here for the Williams crew. There you go, old one off, new one on.
Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? We didn't actually see where that contact was, or let me be more accurate. I didn't see.
Καλά, ο Σάρτζεν μαλάκα τώρα δεν τα παρατάει καλύτερα. Είναι 30-40 δευτερόλεπτα εκεί μέσα.
To what was last now is in 19th with Sargent in the pit, so potentially Logan Sargent into him side by side through turn 12.
Okay.
Or making the move.
Ο Μάγνουσεν πέρασε τον Leclerc. Πάμε ρε Βίλ.
Driving on the mirrors at the moment because there is Charles Leclerc and there is Max Verstappen, the driver we're on board with, and mistake for Kevin Magnussen. We went on board with him, he was checking the mirrors, and now he's got the Ferrari tucked underneath him. And Verstappen for company as well, with this slippery Red Bull getting ever closer all of the time. Can Leclerc make the move into the braking zone of 17? Max Verstappen had a lot of momentum there. He's like, oh wait, I've got the car. And through goes Charles Leclerc to improve up a place. Magnussen, as you would expect, but it's Leclerc with the momentum. It's Leclerc with the place. And Magnussen's going to try and fight back. Now we've got DRS enabled. Say goodbye to the Red Bull. That is absolutely outrageous. In another league.
Ρε μαλάκα, ο Verstappen πέρασε 2 άτομα ρε με ένα DRS. Παιδάκια. Μαλάκα τη φάση. Και εντωμεταξύ ο Verstappen έχει hard και ο Magnussen και ο Leclerc έχουν medium. Εντάξει, λογικά, καλά θα πάει αυτό. Θέλω να δω αν θα έχει περάσει τον Russell μέχρι τον 10ο γύρο. Που και ο Russell με medium. Για κάποιο λόγο η McLaren πήγε στη soft. Καλά, γελάει ο κόσμος.
Every single position out there. The lap 1, turn 1 incident between Norris and De Vries has been reviewed.
Oh,
no further investigation. That is for causing a collision. So the FIA have had a look at that. Race control have had a look at that. The race order, Sergio Perez with a 1.6 second lead over Fernando Alonso. Sainz trying to get himself into the DRS of his childhood hero, Fernando Alonso, the driver that's ahead of him on track. Gasly is within the DRS of Carlos Sainz. A much better run. Russell staying with the Alpine directly ahead.
Ο Gasly δεν ξέρω γιατί είναι ακόμα τέταρτος, κάτι έχει πάει λάθος.
Down to turn number 1. Let's go back to the start of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, it looks like the prediction from Fernando was correct. Initial getaway, not too bad, but then once he started to hook up the rubber, then it was easy for Perez. Just look down at the back of the field, and yeah, it looked like there was a lockup. Was that De Vries that then ran into the back of? Was that the McLaren of Lando Norris?
Absolutely was, as they file their way through, and this is on board with Lewis Hamilton. Hand on the top of the steering wheel, then reverts to traditional race mode. He finds himself using the middle part of the circuit into turn 1.
Hit someone. Okay, copy. Everything looks okay at the moment.
Yeah, it was just a kiss, wasn't it? It wasn't a full-on hit. It was Hülkenberg in the Haas, so on board with the AlphaTauri. You see the fast-moving De Vries, or is that Lando actually? And then
Lando being hit, and that's
why. Okay, ναι, το χτύπησε ο De Vries τον Norris. Okay. Εντάξει.
And this was, frankly, another racing championship for Max Verstappen. Haas versus Ferrari.
Καλά μαλάκα, πως τους πέρασε και τους δύο σε σταματημένους ρε μαλάκα. Με hard. Οκ. Και βάλανε τον Norris. Α, καλά, δεν μπήκε και η τέτοια. Και τον βάλανε τον Norris να βάλει hard.
Corner of the Grand Prix. 2-second gap for the lead on lap 6:57.
Well, there is, I'm not sure you're familiar with, the Dutch get the sort of same reputation as the Scottish as being a bit conservative, so Max saw a 2-for-1 opportunity and he was having it.
Car's definitely not feeling great. On the front right. Front wing. I think front wing looks okay. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to last this race. Car's not staying much in a straight line down the straight. Yeah, copy. That may just be the wind. There's a lot of buffeting going on.
Μες στην κρίνια είναι ο Χάμιλτον. Μέχρι στην κρίνια είναι ο Χάμιλτον φέτος. Μας έχει σπάσει τα αρχίδια. Δεν θα βγάλουμε τον τέτοιο. Αφού είσαι κουβάζ ρε μαλάκα, έχεις ξεκινήσει το τριήμερο λάθος. Και πώς γίνεται ο Verstappen να κάνει πιο γρήγορο γύρο αυτή τη στιγμή. Μπορεί να μου εξηγήσει κάποιος.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, DC. It didn't look like much contact there. You know, it's never fun being the meat in a three-wide sandwich, and he did well to get out of it. But when you think back to Baku, how hard we saw some of these cars clipping concrete walls and carrying on, I really don't think that one did anything. But I just don't think the Mercedes has much pace. I mean, credit to Russell for hanging on in fifth right now. Verstappen in DRS range, so I imagine that's not going to last long. But I think they're just going to be struggling today.
Yeah, I think it's a case of he's not in a happy place. The car isn't talking to him. And psychologically, with that little contact, as we see, that's how you completely skip the chicane. Esteban Ocon correcting for a little bit of overspeed turn and straightens it up and pops inside the cone.
Okay, that is Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, third place Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly having a great run, George Russell, and then the danger man for Sergio Perez.
Βγάει το σκυλί μαλάκα.
If you consider that we have the high-speed change of direction, that traditionally gives you a little bit of a spread of the field. Max Verstappen is only 5.5 seconds off the race lead.
Yeah, he's bringing that gap down as well whilst overtaking people. So, interesting strategy for Perez. He's either absolutely at the limit of those tyres, or he's not pushing enough.
Feels plan A -12 ready.
So I'm going to assume plan A is a one-stop strategy. They've discussed a potential lap, and you're going to take 12 from that. So you don't really need to get a calculator out to work that one. We just don't know what plan A initial lap was.
Yeah, but the fact he's doing quick arithmetic is a minus, let's call it 12, carry the 2. I mean, it's incredible, his mental capacity while he's wheeling a Formula One car.
Yeah, that is true. That is the word, capacity that Fernando Alonso has. He would be pushing it much further. That's a little bit of kidology. No, Pirelli weren't expecting anyone really to go beyond lap 20. So maybe reset the grip on the circuit, which means that they're having to revise their strategies as they go. Is this interesting? So George Russell's really pushed on. He's got no choice because he's got the fastest car on track directly behind him. Another new fastest lap in the Grand Prix for the two-time world champion. But crucially, George Russell does have the benefit of DRS in order to defend from Verstappen, and Verstappen's progress will be halted for a couple of moments. We were seeing his exit out of turn 8 because he's looked very confident on the brakes down to 11.
Yeah, so they're both in a situation where there's
Εντάξει, δεν έχει άδικο τώρα, ο Ράσελ έχει DRS. Αλλά ρε φίλε, ο Γκάσλι θα αντέξει ρε μαλάκα, δεν θα αντέξει ο Γκάσλι.
And what is the DRS advantage around here? Close to a second.
Yeah. It is 9/10 of a second around this circuit.
So, you know, Max is able to run quicker lap times without pushing those harder tyres as much as Perez out front.
And it also makes you think, is Sergio just, he opened that gap up, he made sure he got outside DRS for Fernando Alonso, but that gap really hasn't changed. It's been 1.6, 1.7 seconds. Is he just controlling it as we see Nico Hülkenberg, big lock up there into turn 1, trying to go by the Alfa Romeo.
Καλά ναι, ο Hülkenberg δεν μπορεί να οδηγήσει το παιδί ρε μαλάκα, εντάξει, τι τον φέραν πίσω ρε μαλάκα.
Weekend long about the grip off the racing line. There was a clear example. There isn't much there. Trying that lunge into turn 1 for Hülkenberg.
Έλα ρε Verstappen, στο 0-3 τον έχεις. Φάτονα ρε μαλάκα ζωντανό. Πάμε λίγο. Πάμε λίγο. Πάει ο Ράσελ. Επόμενος. Γκάσλι. Έλα στο τσάκμπαμ.
He's got the DRS, but so has Max Verstappen, and that is 5th place, and a crucial move after what happened last week.
Big vibration on the brakes.
Okay, well, what can a big vibration be? It can be, you know, just like wearing issue. You know, you get a slight warp in the carbon fiber brake. Unlikely to be anything to do with the actual tire weights, because that would vibrate in a straight line, never mind anything to do with braking. So that will probably sort itself out. I'm going to suggest.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I mean, look at this. I mean, he's so late on the brakes. It's such a late move. He rides
Καλά,
there.
σε έφαγε
Again,
ζωντανό
that's hard
Ράσελ,
tires to
άστα τώρα
mediums.
αυτά.
Still well within the window of the medium tire. The performance of that car at the moment is absolutely outstanding.
Max Verstappen making light work of the field. He's got a former teammate directly in front of him as well. Pierre Gasly, who for 50 laps of the Australian Grand Prix ran inside the top 5. He's inside the top 5 again, with the CEO of Alpine not particularly pleased with what he's seen from the entire racing squad so far. And Gasly needs a strong performance. The whole team need a strong performance. And this is going to be filed, I imagine, into the category that David was telling you about earlier. There's no point for Gasly to fight Verstappen. He will know it, and it will be another pass in a few, but you see almost standing on the brakes, almost waving him by, eventually making the move. Gasly will focus on Russell behind, and he waited such a long time for Verstappen to get through. He's brought himself into a battle with George Russell here.
Yeah, Gasly
Το πέρασε ο
should have
Gasly.
gave that up. He tried to ride it around the outside.
Russell to the inside, and
Ο Ράσελ πέρασε και
Gasly
αυτό στον
opened the
Gasly.
door for
Εντάξει.
Verstappen, and
Αλλά έμεινε
inadvertently
πίσω
let the Mercedes
από το
through.
Verstappen.
Didn't see the big picture.
Going to be kicking himself for that one, for sure. But it does look like he's struggling a little bit more. He had fallen almost 2 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. He wasn't able to keep pace with the Ferrari, so perhaps the medium's starting to fall off a little bit on that Alpine. But yeah, great read from George Russell there to see another onboard shot here as Max Verstappen goes by. Again, really late.
He was late, but I think he was a bit tentative because he wasn't quite sure if Pierre was going to give him the corner or close the door. And that indecision from Max probably led to Pierre then going, well, hold on a minute, are you passing me or not? And while he's trying to figure that out, George is like, I'll have some of this, boys.
Makes a crucial move for his overall result today. Russell trying to get the best out of it. We're looking further back at the other Mercedes now. Lewis Hamilton remaining in 13th place. The last time he went out in the second part of qualifying was Imola last year. It was a wet-dry race, but there was no grip off the racing line, and he couldn't find a way past Pierre Gasly that day. He is staring at the back of a Williams, and if you consider statistically, Lewis Hamilton is the most successful Formula One driver ever on US soil. This is not what the 7-time world champion is used to.
Yeah, he's just sitting in a DRS train. Every car other than Magnussen. No, even Magnussen, I think, was he getting it from Russell? But anyway, all DRS popping open, so that's really neutralizing the opportunity for Hamilton to exploit that DRS. And that Mercedes is not as slippy in a straight line as it's been in previous years.
Great grandstand eye view of the battle for the final place in the points. Bottas trying to return there. He's got 1 point scoring finish in 2023. That was the opening Grand Prix of the year, and that was not on pure pace. That was done on an alternative strategy. He ran many laps on an unfavored tyre in order to stay in the top 8.
My gut tells me it's going to be a Plan A race.
What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that he's correct. Still don't know what that is, but I trust his judgment on this one. He knows what he's doing, this old George Russell. But yeah, tough situation right here for Lewis Hamilton. He said just stuck in that DRS train. And right now, you know, everybody's learning at this point. We're on lap 11. Longest run anyone really did in practice was, I think, what do you say, 8 or 9 laps. Christian Horner was saying at the start. So now the teams are learning as much as we are as we watch. It'll be interesting to see whose mediums start to fall off a little bit. You know, you've got Hulkenberg mixing it up and Ocon mixing it up in there on the hard tires. Meanwhile, you got the McLarens who got off the softs, and they're just going to run the hards probably all the way to the end now. So a couple different strategies playing out.
Okay, so within DRS range.
Φάση από πέρυσι, εντάξει, και λογικό.
I wonder if Perez has checked
Ξανά ο
the gap was
Verstappen.
at 1 point, 5.6 seconds. Not to Fernando Alonso, to Max Verstappen on the charge. It's 4.6 seconds, whilst Verstappen has been overtaking cars. And we'll keep you updated on that gap as well as the obvious as well. And we've
Έκλεισε και τη διαφορά από τον Sainz. 1,3. Respect.
Verstappen closing in. Lap 8, lap 9, lap 10, lap 11, ludicrous numbers as the Red Bull gets on the charge. It is crucial that Sainz maintains DRS. We're looking at the second Ferrari in the order. That's Charles Leclerc, who was beating himself up after another qualifying error. 2 times he's been off the road at turn 7 so far this weekend. And the brilliant speed that's given him 19 career pole positions sometimes, occasionally leads to an error when he's dancing that car on the limit. Ferrari themselves saying that car is not the most predictable.
The front tower is struggling.
Copy. And this mid -1 is more towards plan B. They are looking good. They are quite quick.
On a Red Bull, they're quite quick.
Ναι, αυτό ρε φίλε, στη Red Bull είναι γρήγορες οι hard. Δεν σημαίνει ότι άμα βάλει το Leclerc hard θα του πάνε καλά.
The engineer's sort of information, it's factually correct, but it doesn't really give you sort of much inspiration, does it? It's, you know, it's almost like a computer-generated voice.
Siri
enjoy your race.
Yeah.
You enjoy being sold a bit more. You like a little bit more passion in the voice,
Well, I'm excited sitting here. You know, I'd like to imagine the engineers who are closer to the whole action are loving it.
That's a move that's been a long time coming for Charles Leclerc to the inside of Magnussen. Magnussen relishing fighting the...
Πω ρε Leclerc, δεν μπορείς να κάνεις μια προσπέραση ρε μαλάκα στη χάς. Τι κάνεις ρε φίλε. Τι κάνει ο Leclerc ρε μαλάκα. Έχει σταματήσει να τον νοιάζει αν θα κερδίσει. Δεν γίνεται ρε μαλάκα αυτό το πράγμα.
Brilliant. I love that. That was a great over-under there from Kevin Magnussen. I was just going to mention how you compare the progress made from the two drivers that qualified.
Τι να πω ρε φίλε. Ο Χριστός και Απόστολος. Ωραία φίλε.
And he's struggling even to get by a Haas right now. He did it briefly, but a great comeback there from Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah, Magnussen, he is a great racer. You know, sometimes he gets involved in incidents that, you know, with the bigger picture are limiting in terms of getting to the checker flag. But right now, he is fighting for position in what is a Ferrari-inspired car, because Haas basically buy everything they can from Ferrari.
Εντάξει, πρέπει να είναι απαράδεκτη πίστα το Μαϊάμι ρε, πρέπει να είναι απαράδεκτη πίστα. Και ούτε την έχουν διαβασμένοι οι ομάδες, τίποτα μαλάκα. Τίποτα, αρχίδια. Δεν ξέρω, δεν βγαίνει ρε μαλάκα, δεν βγαίνει, περίεργη πίστα για τον Μπούτσο.
Trip to the barrier. Perez over the line with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Instant response from Max Verstappen over the line in fourth place with the fastest.
Ναι, μα τι το γράφετε πάνω το fastest lap ρε μαλάκα, αφού στο επόμενο δευτερόλεπτο το τέτοιο Verstappen.
His teammate out front, 1:31.7 for Verstappen, 1:31.9 for Perez on degrading medium tires.
Έλα, Σάινθ κάνει στην άκρη, τελείωνε, μην τον ενοχλείς να πάει να φτάσει στον Αλόνσο, μπας και το κερδίσει. Τελείωνε. Πάρ' τον μπούλο.
You might have done, but if it is lap 15, he's on the money as ever.
He's right there, but one car between them. You've got to imagine he's going to make pretty short work of Sainz.
And here's the move. Sainz can't defend.
Ναι ρε μαλάκα, τι defend να κάνει.
And another place gain for Verstappen, who is
άντε επιτέλους.
like the F1 game on the PlayStation.
Πριν τον 15ο γύρο. Οκ.
At the moment, it is a Miami masterclass.
Ξεκίνησε ένατος μαλάκα. Ξεκίνησε ένατος και είναι τρίτος αυτή τη στιγμή, πριν τον 15ο γύρο. Και έχει το fastest lap με hard. Και τόση ώρα ο Sainz έτσι DRS. Και τον πέρασε και έχει και τώρα DRS ο Verstappen. Και λογικά θα πάει για τον Αλόνσο.
In a few moments' time, because Fernando Alonso is not going to compromise his battle with Carlos Sainz, fighting Max Verstappen. And Verstappen yesterday was straight to the point. He was asked, what are your expectations for Grand Prix Sunday? He responded, P2 minimum. And the opening stint of this Grand Prix is showing us why.
And you know what? We've seen this a few times already where when Checo is ahead, when Max does get to second, if there's a little bit of a buffer, even just enough to be out of DRS zone, we've seen Checo able to match the pace, keep his head cool, not make mistakes, and finish ahead of Max. Now, those weekends, normally we don't see quite as big of a gap in pure performance as we see Kevin Magnussen now in for his pit stop.
Looked like mechanic was going to get run down there for a moment.
Yeah, it's a fast stop, 2.7 seconds. We're back to the battle for second position. The World Championship leader up against the two-time World Champion, highly regarded Fernando Alonso. There's the DRS, there's to the move to the inside. There is second position for Max Verstappen, who is putting on a show for the Miami crowd.
Do you reckon everyone back at the factory at Red Bull just has a big smile on their face every time one of those cars opens the DRS and goes blowing by another Formula One car? So we see Lewis Hamilton now trying to make some progress here.
So Hamilton further back. Hamilton improving up to 11th place at turn 11. So Hamilton gaining a position on Alex Albon. And further back, we did see the pit stop for Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, making the move to the pits. So he's come in, that's released Charles Leclerc. This is a replay of Max Verstappen pulling out of the slipstream and taking second place. Not even a contest.
That closing rate is absolutely.
Δεν είχε λόγο ο Αλόνσο μωρέ να κάνει τώρα στο Verstappen μαγιά. Τι να το κάνει, εντάξει, θα τον πέρναγε eventually, δεν είναι κάτι. Καλά, εντάξει, αυτή τη στιγμή στο Μαϊάμι έχει σκάσει ο κάθε άκυρος ρε που βλέπει πρώτη φορά Φόρμουλα 1, είναι απίστευτο. Βάλαν όλοι hard μαλάκα τα γαμμένα τα παιδιά,
When it was just one to forget all the way through. Bottas in as well as we cycle through the stops, the moves that could decide the lower paying points positions. Remember how close everyone was there. So Hamilton on the hard tire is going to run a longer stint and all those.
Ο Leclerc πως είναι πίσω ρε μαλάκα 7 δευτερόλεπτα τον Russell.
To the same compounded tire, they will hope and take them to the end of the race.
Και πρέπει να βγει τώρα λογικά κιόλας ο Leclerc, πρέπει να μπει για pit stop. Άρα τον ήπια.
Still behind Hulkenberg, and this is checking in with Lewis Hamilton. This is how Hamilton gained a position. He'd been following the Williams throughout the Grand Prix. Nice simple move, and they were battling further ahead as well. They were battling further ahead, very tight battle when Hamilton was making the move into 11, and now we're looking further to the front of the field as Sainz well within the wheel tracks of Alonso now, and this is why he was revising the stop down by 12 laps on the radio.
My front right started to give up a bit.
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting to see. We had him do a 33 flat. There's Max Verstappen, his teammate, 0.7 of a second faster on that last lap with no DRS. So Max, we assume will stay out there and exploit those harder tires for as long as possible. Do we think Sainz is going to say, well look, I may as well just pop in and play the long game here rather than taking more out of these tires behind Alonso? He's sort of got there and then not managed to pull the move. You've got to try and carry the momentum once you catch people and get past them before you end up running in the dirty air for too long.
That is the decision that Ferrari are considering at the moment. New strategic direction for the team this year on the pit wall, and Sainz staying there in the battle for Alonso, and battle with Alonso I should say, and then further back Russell in a bit of a no man's land at the moment. Charles Leclerc trying to close up that gap, and those who have stopped just trying to balance out the need to get that new tyre performance from the need to take it to the very end of the race. Red Bull 1-2, they've scored 25 of them in Formula 1 history. They are first and second in the race. And Max Verstappen strategically, brilliantly placed. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton, who finds himself in the wheel tracks of Hulkenberg.
Δεν γίνεται να περάσει τον Hulkenberg τώρα ο τέτοιος ρε μαλάκα, ο Hamilton.
And you can see that gap is coming down. Hulkenberg offering the defence. He's back in Formula 1, Hulkenberg, after a couple of years away, and apparently, by that shape to the inside, is absolutely up for fighting with Hamilton. It's Hamilton's teammate Russell in the pits.
Ο Russell κι αυτός έβαλε. Ρε φίλε όμως. Και ο Leclerc, ναι, οκ, λογικό.
Good stops for the pair of them.
I think just reflecting on that in-car of Hamilton behind Hulkenberg, you think, okay, Hulkenberg shaped a little bit to the inside.
Δεν νομίζω να τους φύγει σε κάτι τώρα αυτό.
There's a general lack of confidence in Hamilton's driving there. We know he's a brilliant racer, but he was like, yeah, I'm not going to even try and launch it down the inside and see what happens, because I think he just fears what will happen is overshooting the corner.
We are back to Hamilton on board as we see the driver who started in 13th, now in 7th place. A driver who was one of 4 to score in every race so far this season. 4-1 down to his teammate in the qualifying head-to-head, and it's that difficult qualifying session for him yesterday that's left him inspecting the rear wing of the Haas. The two Spanish drivers close once again, but Alonso able to do enough coming out of turn 16, the traction zone that takes you onto the back straight, but Sainz really getting ever more impatient as he tries to fight his way back, and impatient enough to send it to the pits His Ferrari crew will welcome him, but that was both front wheels locked up for signs as he came in.
Yeah, that's a bit of a heart in the throat moment for the driver there. You're just praying that you got below the speed limit before you got to the line, but I think a good call.
Ρε μαλάκα, δεν γίνεται στους 20 γύρους η medium να ταύτισε και να πήγαν όλοι για hard. Δεν φοβούνται για κίτρινη σημαία, για κάτι. Και μπαίνουν τώρα έτσι μέσα. Ή απλά είναι στα αρχίδια μας, άμα γίνει μαλακία μπαίνουμε και βάζουμε... Δεν βάζουμε τίποτα, δεν κάνουμε pit stop ή δεν... Εκτός ρε μαλάκα, αν τώρα ο Verstappen κάνει καμιά μπινιά και βάλουν Πέρες pit stop και μετά τον Verstappen τον βγάλουν στον 40ο γύρο και του πούνε βάλε soft και θα πάει 17 γύρους soft μαλάκα. Λίγο ταλαιπωρημένες τις βλέπω τις τέτοιες, This medium.
That's the tire that is going to take the most energy around this lap. So if one's going to go, that's going to be the first one certainly. But it didn't look too bad. I didn't see a ton of graining or anything like that. Any feathering on the tire. So holding on right. His teammate is definitely closing that gap. But even looking back in the field to drivers like Gasly who have pitted and gone on to the hards, their lap times very competitive on those hard tires. So I definitely think you're at that crossover point. Worth it for Perez to maybe think about getting off this thing before Max has the opportunity to catch up, get into DRS and take the position on track.
I guess we're just looking at where that will bring him out and you know, time in pit lane.
17 seconds here.
Yeah, so 17 seconds. So he's going to come out.
Θα πρέπει να πει και ο Πέρες τώρα ρε μαλάκα και ο Αλόνσο. Πρέπει να μπουν τώρα για hard, δεν γίνεται.
Be able to deal with him fairly quickly. So
and then he has a nice gap in front of Esteban. So not a terrible call at the moment. And this is really the time that the hard starters, that starters with the hard.
Ο Σάινθ εντάξει μαλάκα έκτος, οκ.
Safety car or virtual safety car to try to get that free pit stop.
That was Carlos Sainz making his move on Lewis Hamilton. Old hard tires for Hamilton, and the easy pass made by the Ferrari driver as he picks his way through those yet to stop in the Grand Prix. Perez trying to open up that gap. At the moment, it would be very, very tight between him and Ocon, but that said, the Red Bull straight line speed would mean he'd be quickly passed. So, just trying to extend the stint of...
Μαλάκα, πώς γίνεται. Βέβαια, εντάξει, έχουν τέτοια διαφορά. Ο Κόνερ μαλάκα δεν γίνεται να έχει 13 δευτερόλεπτα τώρα από τον Αλόνσο. Τι γίνεται. Πώς γίνεται αυτό ρε μαλάκα.
Any moment soon, and the man with the fastest lap of the race, the driver who started in 9th place after that error in qualifying on his first run, meant that when Charles Leclerc hit the barriers, he found himself with 9th position for the Grand Prix. But Max
και μπαίνει και ο Πέρες τώρα στο 20. Αυτό εννοούσαν ρε μαλάκα όταν είπαν Plan A Sin 5. Plan A να μπούμε στο 15ο γύρο να βάλουμε hard Sin 5 στον 20ο. Πολύ καλό pit stop για τον Πέρες.
Hamilton, but that's 2.2. It is working amazingly for Red Bull in all departments this year.
2,2 μαλάκα. Οκ, respect. Μαλάκα, κοίτα ο Σάινθ. Του πάει το Μαϊάμι του Σάινθ. Τι γίνεται. Καλά, Leclerc, εντάξει, άστο αγόρι μας. Δεν πειράζει. Όταν θα πας στη Mercedes.
Absolutely flew through the field when he was coming through last year. He was winning from 10th on the grid in Budapest, 14th on the grid in Spa when he really did just slice through the entire field. And today it has taken him 21 laps to go from 9th position to first place in the Grand Prix. And we're now on board with his old rival, Lewis Hamilton, who continues.
Εντάξει μαλάκα, ο Πέρες τέταρτος βγήκε, οκ.
Oh, and Carlos Sainz, we saw him lock up coming into the pit lane. Is that going to be a 5-second penalty for speeding in it? Every single time I've seen a pit lane speeding infringement investigated, it's led to a penalty.
Μαλάκα, γιατί αριστερές τους τέτοιες, οι μπροστά αριστερές τους ρε μαλάκα τα φτύνουνε. Στο μπούτσο πίστα είναι αυτή.
That one's pretty black and white. You know, there's yeah, not a lot of judgment in this one as we watch Lewis Hamilton trying to work on the back of the Haas there, Hulkenberg.
Yeah, we won't be getting a message from the stewards that it'll be investigated after the race.
Hamilton's still unable to make the pass.
Things are not that smooth.
Okay, understood. his race engineer is just so chilled, isn't he? We've discussed this before, and you know, Hinch, I don't know if it's been the same in your experience, but I always feel that the engineers are not only slightly mad scientists who know how to, you know, understand vehicle dynamics.
Μαλάκα ο Τσουνόντα που είναι? Μαλάκα 8ος ο Τσουνόντα.
You have to engineer the driver as much as you do the race car, and that's a big part of it there. As we see a little bit of action here, some really close quarters racing through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's Tsunoda, then it's Albon, then it's Stroll, then it's Russell, and they are scrapping through the first part of the lap on 22 of 57. You can see Verstappen, Alonso.
Αλλά δεν έχει κάνει pit stop ρε μαλάκα. Είναι με hard βέβαια, αλλά δεν έχει κάνει pit stop. Ναι, τον Ocon, okay.
So Ocon yet to stop, Perez taking back the position.
And that was important for Sergio Perez. He really needed to clear that Alpine so we could get this clear racetrack now. Try to keep that gap to Max Verstappen under 17 seconds. It's just over. It's about 18 and a half, about 17 and a half, sorry, at the moment. So he's right on that limit. He needs to try to close it in because when
ισχύει ρε φίλε, πρέπει να το κλείσει ο Πέρες και τώρα που πέρασε τον Οκόν είναι ψιλοφρύ ρε μαλάκα, έχει 13 δευτερόλεπτα μπροστά του τον Αλόνσο που έχει medium εδώ και 23 γύρους, τον οποίο δεν τον βάλανε μέσα, γι' αυτό είναι δεύτερος, αλλιώς τώρα θα βγει, ούτε ξέρω και εγώ που θα βγει. Ο Σάινθ γιατί παίρνει συνέχεια ποινές, τι στο μπούτσο κάνει ρε φίλε, μπορεί να με εξηγήσει κάποιος.
Yeah, unfortunate, but it's just part of the casino, the gambling the driver has to do. You know, you've got to be on point on braking into the corners, and you've got to be on point on braking into the pit lane. But that will take the pressure off Alonso, who's actually doing some pretty good lap times. So matching where Sainz is, but that 5-second penalty will make sure that Alonso, I think, can extend his run and take his stop and come back out in third place.
So Alonso chasing another podium this year would be his fourth.
Change the front wing.
Will do.
Τι έχει πάλι ο Ράσελ ρε μαλάκα.
I wonder what's initiated that call.
Oh, finally for Lewis Hamilton.
Πέρασε τον Χούλκενμπεργκ το κουβάρι τέλος.
And further back on the track, we've got George Russell trying to do the same thing. It was very close there. Wonder if Russell was uncertain of whether the front wing was still in the same condition when it left the factory, but I think it was close rather than actual contact. Doesn't appear to be any real damage to the front of the car. Let's go driver's eye view as we build up to 200 miles per hour, and we'll see whether Russell can take 9th place in the Grand Prix. Identical power in the Aston Martin ahead. Stroll offering the defence, and he manages to defend that gap, getting ever tighter, and the Aston Martin stays ahead.
Okay.
At this battle between the two of them, and in the next DRS zone, Russell using that preferred turn 1 passing place. That's what it looks like in the grandstands. They're on their feet applauding another move. Seen plenty of action in the midfield pack here. They've seen
ο Stroll δεν έχει κάνει και αυτός pit stop όμως νομίζω.
To what is now the race lead, and Russell making progress ahead of Stroll.
So here's a thought. Normally when you applaud from the audience, it's because you know that the performers can hear you. That isn't the case in Grand Prix racing, is it?
They're just doing it for the pure excitement of it. They're just loving it.
Front wing looks okay is the message to George Russell. He wanted the team to inspect it. Things looking present and correct for the one-time Grand Prix winner who finds himself out front. And we're still waiting for those who started on their hard tyres to make their mandatory stop. Alonso taking that medium tyre a long way in comparison to the rest of the field. Once again, Alonso trying to just eat that Pirelli rubber out in a way that few others can.
Those hards are holding up. I mean, Verstappen a 131.9, or just crossed the line at a 132.1 to Perez. Let's see here.
Για να δούμε τώρα ο Αλόνσο. Θα τον περάσει σίγουρα ο Πέρες, σίγουρα ο Κον και μπορεί και ο Σάινθ, αλλά ο Σάινθ έχει 5 δευτερόλεπτα ποινή. Οκ. Δεν ήταν καλό πίσω μου φαίνεται. 2,7, οκ.
Fourth position, I should say, and he makes his way past the Alfa Romeo. Magnussen pass. Joe Guan Yu there. Here's Fernando Alonso, and he has been cleared by Carlos Sainz flashing by there, but Sainz does have that 5-second penalty. So all the hard work done in that round of pit stops undone by that pit lane speed infringement.
When in a pit, you need to let me know what the limitation on the medium was, so we know what to do with the front wing.
Max, I'm looking at that on the pit wall. You focus on driving, please.
Oh man.
Right, okay.
To your comment about the engineers having to kind of coach the drivers a little bit. All right, Max.
Oh,
It's almost the
man.
exact opposite of that famous Kimi Räikkönen call, "Leave me alone, I know what I'm doing." Max is saying, "I want more information." The engineer's saying, leave me alone and focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, it is indeed.
Ρε φίλε, αξίζει να τον βάλεις βέβαια τώρα στους 25 γύρους, ο Πέρες θα την κλείσει διαφορά από τα 16. Και τι γίνεται, και καλό pit stop να του κάνουν του Verstappen. Θα πάει δεύτερος.
Softer tyres, and then he'll need to come from behind and overtake to win the race.
So Pierre Gasly finding his way by. That's at turn 11. Gasly fighting his way past Lance Stroll. Stroll, who's done the entire Grand Prix distance on the hard tyre, and Gasly, who's on the fresher rubber. He has been on that tyre for 9 laps now. That was to get into the points for the Alpine driver.
So you see up there, Perez with the fastest lap, and that gap to Max Verstappen, well under 17 seconds now. He just needs to keep chipping away at it.
Verstappen will get that medium tyre, and of course he'll get the benefit of the medium tyre on the low fuel. He'll be able to attack, and in the evidence that we saw in the practice sessions earlier in the weekend, Verstappen did appear to have the pace over his teammates.
So give me an update on what's happening in the race, man. Like, how's our pace? What's it looking like? What do I have to do?
Pace is good relative to the hard runners that are still out, so we just need to keep pushing on the tyres now. Your pace is good.
We're on the hard tyre with Fernando Alonso. We're up against Carlos Sainz, from one Aston Martin wanting an update to the race to Fernando Alonso not wanting to wait at all for that benefit of the 5-second penalty. He knows he's already ahead on the timing page. He wants to take the position on track as he looks to score his 4th podium of the season so far, his worst result in Formula 1 2023, last week's 4th place.
I'm not sure I share the enthusiasm of Lance's engineer in terms of his pace being good. There's a few guys in front on hard tyres yet to stop who are running half a second plus faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
You definitely understand the frustration though. You always want that information.
Και ο Γκον της έχει τραβήξει πολύ τις τέτοιες ρε μαλάκα της Χάρν. Βέβαια ο Γκον αυτή τη στιγμή, ο Σάινθ.
It sure is, and we are heading now. Well, we were going to be. Let's review what George Russell has been doing. I suspect he's been overtaking on the racetrack. It's the AlphaTauri ahead of us. At least that was the case. Yuki Tsunoda down to 9th position, and Russell takes 8th place in the Grand Prix. Easy pass as he makes his way by. Let's go trackside once again with Carlos Sainz trying to fight his way through for a first podium of the season. Fernando Alonso has the slipstream, has the pass, and that is a slam dunk move for the 2-time world champion. Getting past the Ferrari, the Aston improves up to 4th.
It was almost like Fernando was surprised just by how much pace he carried past Sainz. So I wonder if Sainz was in a situation where he was like, okay, look, I'm actually going to lift a little bit and I'm going to pick up DRS from you.
Well, again, he knows if they finish as is with him right on his gearbox, he still loses the position. So maybe.
For me, this pushing too much is not good for the tyres. I don't agree with this.
You don't often hear dissent on the radio from Alex Albon, so he must be concerned with what he's seeing, the feedback from the front tyres, front limited circuit, thanks to the high-speed change of direction that you get in the first 8 corners of this Grand Prix. Alonso checking the mirror, he knew Sainz was going to get DRS. Sainz has lost out on the timing page, lost out for track position, and it might not be a first trip to the rostrum this season for the Spanish driver, the man from Madrid behind.
Ο Verstappen πλησιάζει τον Sargent εν τω μεταξύ. Και ο...
Often there's a difference in the rubber. Fernando Alonso extended his stint, got the benefit of fresher, hard tyres as he went past Sainz, who jumped him in the pit stop sequence.
Αυτή τη στιγμή ο Verstappen άμα κάνει pit stop πηγαίνει δεύτερος. Βγαίνει μπροστά από τον Οκόν, ο οποίος δεν έχει κάνει και αυτό pit stop. Αλλά το θέμα είναι, ρε φίλε, άμα βγει κοντά στα 3 δευτερόλεπτα πίσω από τον Πέρες, σου λέω τώρα θα τον περάσει.
That's, you know the song, I've got that loving feeling. Well, Checo's just got that sinking feeling. And that's the same lap time that he's doing on some fresher rubber.
So he's inside the 17-second window. That's the good news. That's the strong start to the sentence for Sergio Perez. The bad news is there's going to be a softer compound on his teammate's car, low fuel, and maximum attack for Max Verstappen, trying to win his third Grand Prix of the year.
Yeah, 21 laps more on his teammates' tires and doing the same lap time. That's not exactly what he wants to hear. A bit disheartening, I'm sure, that radio transmission was for Sergio Perez. But, I mean, it's not unexpected, is it? When you just look back at the advantage that Max has had in pretty much every single session so far this weekend, it makes sense.
So Perez knows he's got to find time. Last time around, he was about a tenth quicker. He's got to try and respond. And let's hear Verstappen on the radio.
So you are 2/10 quicker than Checo in sector 2. It's all turns 4, 5 and 6. He's pushing the tyre. It is getting gusty out there, Max, so just take care in that section.
Alonso πέρασε τον Οκόν, μαλάκα.
Whilst we were hearing from Gianpiero Lambesi, another pass for Fernando Alonso. And the Spanish driver able to improve, the oldest driver in the field, up to third position. And then he was slightly sceptical after qualifying that they had the race pace to hang on. But he's ahead of the Ferrari on track. The Mercedes have had their troubles throughout, and it's looking good for Fernando Alonso at the moment. It will come down to tyre wear, and remember what we had last year when a late safety car completely scrambled the picture. You're getting the current wind direction on the right-hand side of your screen, the speed as well.
Ρε μαλάκα, λες ο Verstappen να περιμένει αυτοκίνητο ασφαλείας.
That can really affect things, certainly in the high-speed direction that you get through 4, 5, 6 and 7, as we saw in qualifying yesterday when Charles Leclerc's car struck the floor and then it spun.
Καλά το πήρε όλο ευθεία ο Leclerc χθες, μαλάκα. Ό,τι να είναι.
With the ride of the Red Bull suspension, the Adrian Newey specifically designed suspension for this year, meaning the Red Bull has a phenomenal ride out there, which is such an advantage in corners like this. And we are working lap 30 out of 57 with the gap between the top two in the race. The only two that have led the race so far today, 15.7 seconds, with Verstappen having that benefit of the softer compound, the medium tyre coming his way later on.
Yeah, Perez responding a little bit to that call. He just went a 31.5 to Verstappen's 31.8, so he picked up a few tenths there. He knows now what he's got to do. He was probably cruising around at 31.8 thinking that was still...
Μαλάκα, Τσουνόντα πήρε 8 θέσεις. Τον De Vries τον έχει ξεφτυλίσει φέτος.
You are free to lean on the tyres more now, Max. Just watching our track position on Fernando.
Track position on Fernando is fine for Red Bull.
Yeah, seems an overly cautious call. Fernando's
27
seconds back.
Ρε μαλάκα.
But when you know you've got the pace in the car and you know that they've got the...
Θα πάει για medium ο Verstappen, μαλάκα. Θα το έπαιξε ανάποδα από τους υπόλοιπους.
And CFD coming their way. You know you've got to win all the Grand Prix whilst you are the class of the field. And this Red Bull, surely the greatest ever built by the team based in Milton Keynes in the UK. We are looking at Carlos Sainz further back. His season so far, a 4th, a 6th. He was running in the points in a good position in Australia before the contact with Fernando Alonso and getting the penalty. And then 5th place the last time out in Azerbaijan. That's the story of his season so far, the lead Ferrari in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it sort of makes sense. They're kind of now in that window, Max Verstappen is, to get onto that medium tire. You look back and see that Fernando Alonso took his mediums about 25 laps. So you're going to have better track conditions, lower fuel if you were to do that now for Max Verstappen. So any time in the next few laps, he's sort of in that window to do it. He is going to come out behind Sergio Perez, but he's just going to have such a pace advantage between the tires and the fuel.
Yeah, Max Verstappen has got one hand on the trophy at the moment, but we would have said that he was the heavy favourite for pole position yesterday. Grand Prix are not won on paper, and they're certainly not won at half distance. We're beyond that now, and we're on to 32.
So we have George 1.1 behind, so we aren't racing him, we're racing Ocon. So let's not hold each other up.
Chastening team radio message for Lewis Hamilton there. Do not fight your teammate, you are in a separate race.
It doesn't really look like it's all worked out for Hamilton. His teammate's back on his gearbox, and he's a full pit stop still to go. So the rough weekend sort of continuing for the 7-time champ.
All of this just adds to the confidence that's growing in George Russell, doing a very solid job at Mercedes, not afflicted by expectations of what a Grand Prix, consistent Grand Prix winning car feels like. That's obviously where Hamilton has lived for so long. George managed to get that one victory in Brazil last year.
Don't mind, I'm backing up though.
That's what happens when you ask a 7-time world champion to let the teammate go through. He's like, well, if he's fast enough, he'll get past me, won't he? So Mercedes working that situation. I think many.
Καλά και ο Χάμιλτον μαλακίζεται τώρα αφού έχεις τα hard 32 γύρους τώρα ρε φίλε, τι μαλακίες λες. Τον πέρασε εκεί.
As Russell makes his way by, making it very obvious.
I would love to hear what the follow-up message
from Pittman was that led to
that move, because that was about as blatant a let by as you could do.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that the.
Thank you very much appreciated.
Thank you very much appreciated.
Once the love-in has finished, I'm actually surprised that you weren't sort of strategically working together.
Καλά και ο Χάμιλτον πρέπει να μπει pit stop μαλάκα κι αυτός.
Maybe this is what they're trying here, but definitely Lewis lost time by moving over to let Russell through.
Yeah, I guess the hope is, like you say, he can get mixed up with Ocon and maybe slow him down a little bit. Hamilton can benefit from having the DRS right now, kind of get towed along with Russell. So maybe some strategy there that actually makes sense, but it was funny to see that statement made and then a very different move on track.
Out front, Perez on the last lap, losing time. Lap before was the same case. So that is ebbing and flowing out front. Still, if Verstappen was to stop, he would lose the lead. Here's Verstappen on the radio.
Effective track position is around 5 seconds behind Checo. The longer we can extend this, the better.
So that's the current state of the race. Haas there with the DRS open. There's quite a lot of pursuing cars behind, but there's Hülkenberg in second place. That's a move to the inside for Stroll, trying to get past Gasly. Gasly won't want to give that one up. Gasly will not give that one up, and there's no grip off line there with Magnussen closing in the Canadian driver ahead.
Yeah, it's really a shame, isn't it? It would have been great to see them kind of hanging around the outside there and see them try to settle out in turn 13, 14.
So Tsunoda yet to stop.
Βέβαια πάει για βαθμό, οπότε.
As Hülkenberg, so he's fought his way by. Haas's weakness in the car is tyre life. That's been the case all the way through. We've seen some phenomenal one-lap performances from both drivers. This is the live state of the race for Gasly, Leclerc and Magnussen. And as it stands, it's Hülkenberg looking in the mirrors. And finally, the Hulk's tyres protest too much, and he's going to get rid of the hards and bolt on the mediums. Go to the end of the Grand Prix, releasing this line-astern battle involving multiple cars. Tsunoda in 8th then Gasly, Stroll, Magnussen and Leclerc, who has made his stop.
Yeah, we've got what still.
Αλλά πήραν το με το πάσο τους το κάνανε. 2,9 βέβαια, οκ.
But that still makes it fairly sobering reading of the timesheets with the pair down in 12th.
Yeah, down in 12th and back behind Kevin Magnussen on the same strategy. So it's just not worked out at all for Ferrari. That said, it's a move to the inside and a place gain for Sainz. Ocon yet to stop, so he's on old hard tyres at half the tyre length for Carlos Sainz.
Τώρα πρέπει να βάλεις μέσα το Verstappen ρε φίλε, θα αντέξει 20 γύρους η medium. The car is jumping all over the place.
It's actually sort of working because Hamilton's managed to stay in DRS zone as we just take another look here at a pretty textbook straightforward pass from Carlos Sainz on DRS there into 11. But no, the gap from Hamilton to Ocon has come down considerably. He's stayed in the DRS range of George Russell. It's just kind of been towing him along. So it is bringing him more into the mix.
It's going longer and longer and longer. Hamilton, the entire Grand Prix on this tyre, will want to get rid of it, will want to be able to attack. But putting in good performance on those tyres. One thing, because Lewis Hamilton was always in a front-running car in Formula One, made his debut with McLaren when they were fighting for podiums and race victories on a regular basis. We never saw Hamilton look after the tyres at a back marker team where it stands out, and you can do what Sergio Perez did for the majority of his early career, trying audacious strategies and scoring podiums in an unfancied car. Hamilton never had that stint, but the team always underlined that he is a master at extracting all there is from a Pirelli hard tyre or any tyre that needs to go the distance.
I mean, we've just seen so many remarkable performances from him over the years, regardless of what level of the grid he was racing in. Super capable of doing anything and everything you need to do to win Grand Prix.
Max Verstappen with the fastest lap of the race so far. It's a 1:31.225. Can Verstappen now put the laps in to give him the
Τι battle for fourth ρε μαλάκα, αφού ο Σάινθ έχει 5 δευτερόλεπτα ποινή, ο Ocon δεν έχει κάνει pit stop. Ο Ράσελ θα βγει μπροστά σε αυτή τη φάση. Τι μου βάζει τώρα battle για τέταρτος?
He is going to come out of the pits behind his teammate and have to pass for the lead, albeit with a tyre compound advantage. Another pass for George Russell, this time on Esteban Ocon. Russell gaining a position, and Russell looking firmly ahead up the road, trying to close down Carlos Sainz. And that's on for track position, of course, because Sainz does have that penalty.
Μαλάκα ο Σάινθ θα βγει τρίτος έτσι όπως το πάει όμως, αλλά όχι με τίποτα, έχει 5 δευτερόλεπτα ποινή. Ο Ράσελ μαλάκα θα βγει τρίτος έτσι όπως το πάει.
Yeah, you can get away with that one or two times, but if you're obviously systematically cutting a corner, you're going to get pulled up by the stewards. But also it sounded a little bit like you were bottoming out the car when it landed on the other side, which the underside of the car is your most potent tool for developing downforce, so you definitely don't want to damage the leading edge of that floor.
And we've heard Charles Leclerc on the radio reporting that the car is bouncing. Certainly saw that phenomenon in Q3 in comparison with the Red Bull ride through those corners. The Red Bull was not striking the floor at all. The Ferrari striking the floor multiple times, and that problem showing up again in race trim for Charles Leclerc, who would not have been expecting to stare at the back of a Haas. And the US team, one of 3 visits they're going to have this year, in the mix, fighting all the way through. But is this the moment, finally, for Charles Leclerc to use the superior performance of the Ferrari? He waits, he gets on the brakes late, and he finally takes the place. Through goes Charles Leclerc to 11th position, and he will try and fight his way through for better points later on.
That was really interesting, wasn't it? It looked like
ο Τσουνόντα τώρα μπήκε τον νύχτα.
Πόρε
μαλάκα, ο Leclerc τι κάνει ρε φίλε.
Well, look, we saw a radio message from
Fastest lap of Hülkenberg. What?
When you looked at the way he entered turn 17, there was a lack of confidence. He was on the brakes and the DRS clause before Magnussen, and that allowed Magnussen to come back at him, which on one hand you've got to say is getting them some TV airtime, otherwise we wouldn't be seeing them.
George Russell with the move on Carlos Sainz to the inside, and Russell has kept his head.
Να άμα σε πέρασε Sainz μου, δεν σε βλέπω.
Russell will try and close down.
Αλλά ρε μαλάκα,
at the same corner.
αυτό θέλει να κάνει τώρα ο τέτοιος ρε φίλε. Ο Ράσελ αυτή τη στιγμή αν κλείσει τη διαφορά από τον Αλόνσο, ο Αλόνσο πρέπει να μπει pit stop όπως και δίπλα, έχει 38 γύρους τέτοιο. Τώρα στο 40ο γύρο λογικά θα μπει και ο Verstappen και ο Αλόνσο. Θα πρέπει να μπουν pit stop. Οπότε
you got to pull it off, and look, they just do not have the closing rate. It's crazy.
Is he playing the tactical game here? Does he not want to give Magnussen the chance in the second DRS zone? I wonder whether Charles Leclerc has waited here. Lewis Hamilton makes his stop.
Μπήκε ο Χάμιλτον για τέτοιο και θα πάει για medium.
I'm going through. Enough of this already. And the Ferrari goes on by. Great battle between these two in the race.
13ος.
With how he's been racing, I'm a little surprised. But now he does have the benefit of DRS, so maybe he can take another swing back, either down into 11 or down into 17.
Okay.
Well, whatever they're thinking, whether it's strategic or just in the moment, it's some good racing, good clean racing.
So the Miami Grand Prix this year having more to talk about than last. Had a late flurry of action.
Τον πέρασε τελικά. Άντε, μπράβο ρε Leclerc, ωραίος. Πέρασε τη Haas, ωραίο του να λέγα. Μπράβο ρε παιχτάρα. Ή όχι, το πριν δείχνει. Καλά, που το ξαναπέρασε.
Magnussen able to get him back brilliantly. And then one lap later, the Monegasque driver, 5-time Grand Prix winner, finding himself to the front at last in that race-long battle. And we're going on board with George Russell. This was how he got past the Ferrari ahead. And things working nicely for the British driver.
We road.
Όχι, καλά πάει για τον Russell.
He's doing a great job in a car that's been underperforming really all weekend outside of FP1 when they did an extra set of tires. So to be running up in a legitimate fourth position when his teammate, I mean, we're still yet to see where Hamilton's going to cycle through, having not even made his stop yet. Oh, he has just now, actually.
Yes.
He has pit, sorry.
So we were watching the Ferrari and the Haas battling on track as Hamilton got on to a new tyre, and he immediately punched it with a tremendously fast middle sector of the Grand Prix. So Hamilton will be desperate. I think he came out behind the Williams as well, so he's fought his way past Alex Albon. And Hamilton will be desperate to clear as many cars as possible. Also, watch the gap for the race leader, 17.2 seconds there.
I've been watching these times closely, and it's just Perez can do the lap.
Ναι ρε φίλε, αλλά
Consistently, Max is an absolute machine. Right now, getting these low 131s, where Checo's a low 131, mid 131, high 132. He just cannot do it consistently, and Max is getting that gap.
Yeah, let's remind ourselves, Max has done the entire Grand Prix in one set of hard tires.
Ο Hamilton θα περάσει τον Bottas εδώ,
When his teammate pitted, he picked his way through all the way to second place.
I mean, at this point, because he still might just come out behind Checo and still have to do the risk of a pass, at this point, why wouldn't you just come in on the last lap, put on the mediums for one lap?
Working.
It's working.
Now, this is Hamilton trying to reclaim positions. Let's hear from him as he tries to make the pass.
The overtake on Valtteri will help.
I think that message from Pete Boddington, no need to kill the tyres, was because he went 1 second faster than he had previously done so in the middle sector of the Grand Prix. He clears his old teammate, Hamilton, back up to the points in 10th position, but being reminded that he can't go maximum attack. He's also cleared Esteban Ocon, who made his stop late and is out ahead.
Δεν γίνεται να μην αντέξουν οι medium 17 γύρους ρε φίλε, εντάξει, βέβαια έχει πολλούς να περάσει ακόμα. Θεωρητικά, πρέπει να περάσει και τον Magnussen, πρέπει να περάσει και τον Leclerc, και τον Stroll και τον Gasly. Ναι. Ο Sainz θα έχει 5 δευτερόλεπτα ποινή, άμα του κλείσει τη διαφορά είναι κομπλέ. Και ο Alonso δεν έχει κάνει ακόμα pit stop. Βέβαια, ο Alonso λογικά άμα κάνει pit stop και τώρα παίζει να βγει μπροστά από τον Russell.
This was the pass for Lewis Hamilton, leaning on the traction coming out of 17.
Yeah, push Bottas to a tight line. That was always going to compromise his ability to rotate the car and open the power.
Καλά, είναι λίγο κουμουνό πάνω τελικά ο τέτοιος, αλλά οκ.
Only with Lance Stroll and Verstappen to pit now that we have seen Ocon come in, and it's not going to work for Stroll. He's going to drop well out of the points. So going back to the message we had from his race engineer earlier, saying times are good. Well, they are if you're not focused on scoring points.
Yeah, compared to Ocon, I guess you could say that it was kind of close, but outside of that, not ideal.
Max Verstappen yet to pit, trying to win his 38th Formula One race today.
Yeah, it seems that he's found that secret rubber.
Μαλάκα, πρέπει να μπει, θα του σκάσουν τα λάστιχα ρε μαλάκα του Verstappen, 41 γύρους έχει κάνει με τα hard. Δηλαδή, όχι σας Παναγία.
Unbelievable pace. It's getting worrying now for Sergio Perez. The minimum that he would have wanted at the end of Max Verstappen's stint.
Αφού αυτό έχει καλύτερο pace, ρε μαλάκα.
Even though Verstappen was always going to be faster on the medium tyre, and yet Verstappen really going to work now to make sure that he can pit, change all 4 tyres, and come out past turn 1, back in the lead of the Grand Prix. Crucial for the World Championship. There was always talk coming out of Baku, which for many in the paddock was Sergio Perez's finest Formula One performance, about what response we would get from Verstappen. Well, we're seeing it out there. Verstappen well on his way to winning the Grand Prix if he can maintain this pace on this old tyre.
Nothing to indicate he can. I mean, he's just absolutely flying as these boats are floating.
Τι μαλακία έχουν φτιάξει εδώ, μωρέ, οι κακομοίριδες στο Μαϊάμι.
It's impressive to watch. It truly is a masterclass.
Impressive.
Such a point, putting such an exclamation on this weekend, and it's but for one little oversteer moment in qualifying.
Πω πω και όσο σκέφτομαι, ρε μαλάκα, ότι ο Λεκλέρο κουμπάς αν δεν είχε βάλει κόκκινη σημαία, μαλάκα, στο τέτοιο θα ήτανε. Πω.
Let's go on board with Lewis Hamilton, who is setting the timing page alight at the moment. Fastest first sector of the Grand Prix. He's fighting his way by. Also, we're getting good lap times from Fernando Alonso, who just set a personal best. Same applies to Carlos Sainz. It's only 1.8 seconds back. It'll be 2 laps until we see Kevin Magnussen trying to repel Lewis Hamilton. I don't think that'll go on for a while.
So, effective track position now minus 1.7. Minus 1.7.
Nearly there.
Ναι, ρε μαλάκα, θα μπει για τέτοιο.
It's growing for the first time at a pretty considerable rate. It was somewhere in the 16-second range only a handful of laps ago.
It is a masterful performance so far for Max Verstappen. Perez staring.
Δεν μπορώ να καταλάβω πόσο ο Verstappen άνοιξε τόσο πολύ διαφορά από τον Perez ενώ έχει πιο καινούργια χάρη. Δεν μπορώ να καταλάβω, αλήθεια.
Russell in 4th place will be pleased to move up from where he started in the Grand Prix. Started in 6th. Wants better. Everyone at Mercedes wants better at the moment, but it always helps if you move forward. Magnussen getting shuffled back. So Magnussen has been on that tyre for a while now. Started on the medium. He's been on this tyre for 27 laps of the race, and he will be trying to keep Hamilton behind. That's not the only problem he's got though, because Ocon is on the medium tyre as well, and these drivers are catching the Danish driver.
Just give us some tyre feedback.
Yeah, about right. Be better, be worse.
That is a shrug of a sentence from George Russell to his engineer, Marcus Dudley, on the radio. Lance Stroll finally coming in for his last stop. His only stop, I should say, in the race, and he is going to be fighting. McLaren will want to get out of here quickly. Wonderful part of the world to go forward.
Ρε μαλάκα, ο άλλος έχει 42 laps hard γόμα, ρε μαλάκα. Πώς γίνεται? Πώς γίνεται, εξηγήστε μου. Τι 42, 44. Μπορεί να με εξηγήσει κάποιος πώς γίνεται αυτό. Και να έχει ανοίξει και τη διαφορά στα 18 δευτερόλεπτα από τον Πέρες. Ο οποίος βέβαια εντάξει πάει απλά ρε φίλε να διατηρήσει τα λάστιχα υγιές, αλλά... Ο Φέντερερ! Ναι, δεν ήταν ο Φέντερερ αυτός ρε μαλάκα. What the fuck? Μαλάκα τι κάνανε. Α, ρε μαλάκα, ο Αλόνσο έχει κάνει pit stop. Άρα θα το πάει έτσι, άρα αρχίδια ρε μαλάκα, ο Ράσελ δεν προλαβαίνει να κάνει κάτι. Ηγέτης του pit, μαλάκα. Okay, I guess.
design theory of that car has brought them from being where were the constructors last year, like second last? Or
they were finding themselves level on points with Alfa Romeo for a way of comparison, and they were just 3 teams behind them in the field of the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, so they're going to, if they keep this form up, find themselves in amongst the more successful teams at the front of the pit lane.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Sergio Perez just posts the fast.
Μαλάκα, βάλτε του τώρα αυτή τη στιγμή, βάλτε του... Βάλτε του soft τώρα του Verstappen, ξέρω εγώ ρε μαλάκα. 10 γύρους έχει ακόμα.
And as the fuel burns off, he's getting quicker and quicker and quicker.
That could be a factor of tyre temperature. He might just be overheating the tyre and then having to back out of it a little bit, because the thermal degradation of the Pirelli is something that the drivers tend to complain about or are sensitive to more than the actual wear. And I think that's been borne out by the fact, you know, so many laps in Verstappen's hard tyre. Yes, normally as you wear, you lose the actual gauge, the amount of rubber that's there. That makes it more difficult to overheat the tyre.
Yeah, that is something the drivers, certainly this year, they have been complaining a lot about the surface temperature. You push too far, and that would really speak to James's point as well. Then you need multiple laps to get it back into the operating window before you can push again. But Verstappen has
θα του κάνουν τέτοιο ρε μαλάκα, Verstappen. Θα τον βάλουν μέσα να βάλει τέτοιο. Να βάλει soft. Για να δούμε.
On this hard tyre, he's going to get rid of it, and Perez is on the left-hand side of your
medium.
It's a great stop when required, and 3.1 seconds means that it's the medium tyre on the World Champion's car as he tries to win from 9th on the grid. He will have to overtake his teammate on track, Sergio Perez.
Αλλά βγήκε πολύ κοντά. Ναι. Ο άλλος τώρα με medium θα το φάει ζωντανό ρε φίλε, εντάξει εκεί.
I just love how incredibly accurate the prediction is. It said, all right, at present, minus 1.7 is the predicted on-track measurement. And as they get up to speed here, we're at 1.6. And, okay, there you go. It's going to stabilize at about 1.6 on the outlap. So incredibly precise is the information that they have on pit wall.
Red Bull versus Red Bull for the victory in Miami. That is the state of play. Verstappen having cleared those who started in front of him. His prediction was minimum P2. He's in minimum P2. And now this is where Sergio Perez needs all the support he can get in the crowd, because this is the toughest task out there. He has got old hard tyres on. They've done 25 laps. It's brand new mediums. For Verstappen, the gap is very nearly inside DRS.
Well, you mentioned James Marsden, the actor. That makes me think of Tom Cruise and his franchise of Mission Impossible. And I think Checo, it's just a matter of time, and Max is going to take the lead.
Ναι, καλά, ναι, μα δεν έχει καν λόγο να τέτοιο. Λίγο να τη ζεστάνει και να ούτε καν να τη ζεστάνει.
Perez will be doing everything within his considerable power of taking hard tyres as long as possible into the race. But these two leading contenders for the World Championship not separated by much. How much will Perez fight? How much can Perez fight when the tyres are this old? We'll go driver's eye view. We're on board with Max Verstappen trying to take the lead and win his 3rd Grand Prix of the season. It would be his 38th all-time in Formula One.
Yeah, this is again a super impressive display from Max. Discipline at the start. Absolute.
Driver of the day, Verstappen ρε φίλε, ξέρω. Τι στο μπούτσο.
Here you go.
Closing up into turn 11, Max Verstappen will have an amazing opportunity into the hairpin of turn 17. He's got the superior grip, and this is all about traction. Up 3 meters, and then back down 3 meters through 14 and 15. Here comes the moment. This was all lined up with a superb stint on the hard tyre. Now, on the medium Pirelli rubber, we're watching Max Verstappen gain with every metre. His teammate ahead, his rival for the World Championship ahead. He will pull out of the slipstream. Max Verstappen on the attack. Defence offered for Perez. The ball's going wheel to wheel. Perez shows him the outside line. There'll be better traction for Max Verstappen, who stands on the throttle. He'll get DRS again. Will fight it to turn one. Can Perez offer a defensive line?
Καλά, εδώ να τον περάσει σταματημένο.
The ball's will to wheel and round the outside. Will it be the lead? It's close between the two of them. The crowd are roaring.
Τον άφησε, εντάξει.
Verstappen takes the lead of the Miami Grand Prix.
Εντάξει, ναι.
Ninth on the grid. He's passed his teammate. He's passed all of them.
Well, that was tense for a moment, wasn't it, as they ran it side by side into one.
Τελείωσε. Έτσι θα τελειώσει ο αγώνας όπως είναι τώρα, αν δεν γίνει χοντρή μαλακή, έτσι θα τελειώσει. Overtake ρε φίλε Verstappen που πέρασε τους δυο τους κουβάδες στο Leclerc και ποιον άλλον πέρασε.
Elbows out, you got to do it. You love to see it, right? They're teammates, they're championship rivals, but you don't want to just let them go. And look at him. Even thinking about, I'm thinking back to Abu Dhabi 21 when he was racing with Lewis Hamilton there and exchanging deals.
Αλλά σου έχει fastest lap ο Stroll μαλάκα. Πρέπει να πάει να το πάρει αυτό ο Verstappen. Τώρα βέβαια που βγήκε μπροστά έχει άλλους 7 γύρους να το κάνει, οκ.
Just helping himself to a little bit more DRS and then at this stage.
Αν περάσει βασικά πρέπει να περάσει και τον Piastri ρε φίλε, πιστεύω να τον... Πανηγυρίζει αυτή εδώ που παίζει να βλέπει πρώτη φορά Φόρμουλα 1. Οκ. Καλά πήγε αυτό.
It's only a minor error. He would have got a second run if we'd had a green flag throughout the session. Fastest lap as well. You knew we were going to get a big clue about which direction the World Championship was going to go in this weekend. After Perez's supreme Baku performance, it has been unbelievable the level that Max Verstappen has put in that long stint. The reward of the medium tyres, the reward of 26 points heading the World Champions' way. And it is worth putting it in historical context as well. Max Verstappen this year looking to join Fangio, Schumacher, Vettel and Hamilton in winning 3 consecutive World Championships. You do not do that without being one of the greats of the sport. Canadian driver Lance Stroll does. He has a car's width around the outside. Williams was drifting back to him on the racing line. And Albon is trying to close the door. Albon was protesting, wasn't he, on the radio? He didn't like what they did with the strategy today. He won't like the Aston Martin taking the outside line. And I can tell you, as Lance Stroll made the place, Hinch was waiting to see the Williams steam to the inside there, and it never materialized.
Πήρε και fastest lap και Klein το κέρδισε και σχετικά εύκολα μαλάκα. Δεν ξέρω πώς ξεφτύλισε έτσι. Δηλαδή 45 γύρους τώρα μαλάκα hard γόμα. Οκ, πολύ off.
Thinking about it, oh man, that was a little closer than you'd like. Nico Hulkenberg trying to get involved in that as well.
Back to Lewis Hamilton now. Driver in 8th position. Still feels a really unusual.
Μα ο Χάμιλτον πως δεν πέρασε το Leclerc ο οποίος είπε κιόλας ότι το αμάξι μου είναι σκατά και έχει και medium και ο Leclerc έχει hard και με περισσότερους γύρους. Πώς γίνεται αυτό? Πώς γίνεται αυτό?
Charles Leclerc, who started in 7th, where he finds himself at the moment, and Hamilton with terrific pace, and will be expecting to get past.
Which position is Lance? Great move into one.
That's P13, P13. Fernando's watching the same broadcast we are.
What is he? I can't tell if he's just got a little on his dash. He just has a little corner showing the Grand Prix because he can just watch along, or he's just checking out the big screens along the side of the racetrack. But just incredible.
He was giving him his car settings last week.
Yeah.
And now he's complimenting his overtakes.
I was indeed watching and listening to you and enjoying a...
Δεν ξέρω Stroll που έλουσε ρε φίλε και είναι 13ος. Κάτι έγινε εκεί πέρα.
Hamilton, a number of those that are behind the Formula 1 movie that's going to start being filmed from Silverstone on, it's almost like Hamilton's doing a live audition to pick me as one of the stars.
Just managing in sector 1.
That's a bit comical. Is he struggling? Please say he's struggling. Sorry, bud. He's still doing quite well.
Ούτε καν βρε μαλάκα, το ρώτησε γι' αυτό πέρες. Μπορεί να είναι κάτι στους χρόνους.
51 of 57, And now we're on board with Yuki Tsunoda, car number 22. Tsunoda, who's looking at Valtteri Bottas.
Κρίμα, ο Τσουνόντα δεν έκανε κακό τέτοιο. Μαλάκα ο Ντεβρίς δεν πάει καθόλου καλά, ο του Πιάστρη. Δεν ξέρω. Περίεργα.
Was thinking about the dart to the inside. He says, okay, I'll take the racing line. That's late on the brakes. But that's the position for Yuki Tsunoda, who's now up to 11th place. And this season, he has only finished 11th or higher. Can he keep the Alfa Romeo behind? Crucial for his race that he does so.
Από τον Μάγνουσεν έχει 5 δευτερόλεπτα, δεν τον φτάνει.
5 seconds to the old hard tires of Kevin Magnussen. He's got a few laps to try and give it everything to attack.
Βέβαια έχει medium και άμα μπει τώρα βαθμούς είναι πολύ καλά ο Tsunoda, αλλά πολύ δύσκολα.
Also had a little bit of that. As soon as they got on the brakes, he was immediately fading to the left, trying to just close off that gap, making sure he couldn't get the pass back done.
Just update on whether Max Verstappen is struggling or not. 130.6 for Verstappen, 131.2 for Perez.
Here comes Stroll.
The chance for Lance Stroll, trying to fight his way by as well. Trying the up and under. Zero grip around the outside, and he knows it. No one wants to try it there. No car has been there deliberately all weekend. He is trying to get past Bottas and follows Tsunoda through. And Tsunoda's time's a little bit quicker than Magnussen, but Magnussen at the moment might have started in P4, but every point is vital for the Haas team. Haas, who find themselves 7th place in the Constructors' Championship at the moment. This is an Aston Martin going past an Alfa Romeo eventually into the braking zone. There you go.
I wonder what Fernando's
Καλά τον Bottas τον έχουν κάνει τσιμπούκι σήμερα.
Another marvelous move, Lance. You're doing terrifically.
That was a good. He did have to kind of roll off the brakes. You saw they both got on the anchors initially. As Bottas looks at maybe coming back, and then Lance just had to roll off a little bit, get a little more alongside. Let Valtteri know he was committed to making the move.
It's lap 52 of 57, a Grand Prix which has seen Max Verstappen start 9th on the grid, pick his way through the field up to 2nd place. His teammate came in for hard tyres. Verstappen extended all the way through beyond lap 40, eventually changed to the medium, passed his teammate on track, and he is 5 laps between another 26 points. 25 for winning the Grand Prix, 1 bonus point for the fastest lap, which he has just underlined as well to just assert his dominance on the entire field this weekend. He has owned these 3.3 miles.
2 Alpines running in the points. It's a solid effort for them. Nice bounce back for Baku. Bit of a terror weekend for them last week, but strong result in qualifying for Gasly especially, and he's hanging on well there up in P6. Ocon in P9 for now for both of those. Gasly might be under quite a bit of pressure here from Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc building up to 195 miles per hour. Frenchman puts it on the apex, locks up though and opens the door. That is a position gained for Charles Leclerc. Monegasque driver goes through and he is up to 6th place.
Shouldn't have said anything, should I? I jinxed that one. Sorry, Pierre, my bad. Yeah. And now he's got a mirror full of Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I think Hamilton, now you get a little bit offline, you've had that under rotation, you've picked up a bit of dust on your tyres, and now instead of being able to focus on picking up the slipstream from the Ferrari, as you mentioned, he's going to have his mirrors full of Lewis Hamilton, who I expect to be able to get the pass done.
Will Hamilton be able to make the move immediately? He will. He strikes against the
Οκ, 7ος μαλάκα ο Verstappen. Ναι, ο Hamilton. Οκ. Και έχει και το Leclerc πολύ κοντά. Οκ.
Hasn't got the car to fight for the positions that he would be used to. Can he pick his way past the Ferrari? That's the next task. He's 0.8 of a second away from Charles Leclerc. Wonderful sound of the V6 turbocharged engine. Mercedes will be, they're not worried about the overall power of that car, but they're worried about the drag of this iteration of car. The ultimate top speed, its aerodynamic efficiency as well as overall pace. Ferrari. Well, it was a dream weekend in Baku for Charles Leclerc. He got everything out of it. The Aston Martin had the pace to beat him in the race. Red Bull, obviously, in their own championship at the moment.
Car ahead of Fernando. On track. We're that close to Perez.
Όχι βρε μαλάκα.
Just gonna say.
George Russell getting excited for the moment. Unfortunately for the British driver at Mercedes, they are not able to be that close at the moment. And Russell just able to look at who's ahead. Here's another battle. Cars whip.
Δεν τον πέρασε ο Χάμιλτον.
Leclerc
δεν πάει καλά, δεν τον βλέπω καθόλου καλά.
Who hammers through up to 6th position. That's a good recovery drive if you consider he was not in a good place earlier on, didn't enjoy getting the team order to let George back through, but Hamilton rescuing at least a few points and 6th place.
Μαλάκα, ναι, εντάξει, ισχύει. Αλλά ο Σάινθ τον ρίχνει 15 δευτερόλεπτα και με ποινή, δηλαδή ο Σάινθ πέμπτος βγαίνει.
Extend his advantage in the World Championship once again. Take it up to a 14-point lead as it stands. And the defence offered was a car's width, and it was taken. Do enjoy a camera in the grandstand to give you an idea of what it looks like, and what a fantastic place to watch cars overtaking. We're back out front, and we're getting used to this for Max Verstappen, but this is getting borderline daft. You know, he can seemingly unpick any poor qualifying performance. He's won from 14th to the win in Belgium. He won from 10th last year, 9th to, in a few laps' time, another Grand Prix victory.
And another thing, another race where Alonso in third, we're getting kind of used to that as well. And it's that sort of 20 to 30 second gap to the leaders. So it's that same sort of pace that we've seen out of these Red Bulls. You know, Perez only a few seconds back from Verstappen at this point. But yeah, man, Max has just been flawless today.
Yeah, he's exceptional. He's current world champion, well on his way to adding that third. And that's a sort of magic number amongst the greats, isn't it? You've got 3 titles, but I tell you, I'd consider him a magician if he could come from 9th to win in Monaco.
Well, the way this season's been going on, it was 15th to 2nd in Jeddah. It's 9th to 1st on track at the moment on the penultimate tour. And it will be 4 Grand Prix in a row, one in the USA for Verstappen, who will remain the only ever winner of the Miami Grand Prix. Sergio Perez knows that he's fighting someone who is truly exceptional. You mentioned those 3 titles, David. That is the standard set. That's the one that they always look for. You always got the feeling that Fernando Alonso was hurt, that he couldn't take his obvious talent to the 3 titles of his hero, Ayrton Senna. But it's looking good for Red Bull, who are going to continue their run of winning every single Grand Prix so far this year. It will be another 1-2 for the team as well. And Max Verstappen will take great satisfaction from this performance. He's about to start the final 3.3 miles on another phenomenal highlights reel of a performance. He's on the final lap.
He is, and he's just secured by some margin the fastest lap, that extra point that comes with it. Can anyone beat that? I doubt it.
I absolutely doubt that anyone's going to get on terms with a 1:29.7. It is Planet Max out there this weekend. And everyone else, if you consider how talented the names underneath are. 7-time world champion in Lewis Hamilton, 2-time world champion in Fernando Alonso. But this man's going to extend his points lead in his quest to take a 3rd world championship. And on days like this, all you can do is admire the driving skill of man and machine at one. He is in to turn 11, taking the adulation of the crowd. And some drivers are masters at just converting pole positions into victories. Max Verstappen loves a wheel-to-wheel battle, can do it from a lowly position, can convert those poles into wins, and he's on his way to his 3rd win of the year. He said after qualifying yesterday, the expectation was minimum P2. And you know when he says minimum P2, the expectation was first place in the race. Outstanding performance for the reigning world champion. Max Verstappen comes out of the final corners. Max Verstappen wins the Miami Grand Prix with a masterclass of performance. 9th on the grid to the top step of the podium. Another Red Bull. 1-2.
Ένα-δύο η Red Bull. Χαλαρά, ήρεμα, ωραία. Τρίτος ο Αλόνσο. Ένα ακόμα podium. Στα αρχίδια τους.
To standing in third place. He'll be there again in a few moments' time. Aston Martin are absolutely loving life in Formula 1 2023. George Russell in fourth, Sainz coming home in fifth place, and even with that 5-second penalty applied, he'll hold on to that position, and then it will be Hamilton, Leclerc, Gasly, Ocon, and Magnussen did enough to hang on to the final points-paying position, which is why we're on board with Lance Stroll, who isn't fighting for points, but is fighting for pride, with Yuki Tsunoda through the last corners of the racetrack. That's the 19th on the last lap, and we have confirmed our top 10 on a stunning day for this man. 26 points to his tally, 25 for the win, 1 for fastest lap. Miami, for the second year in a row, belongs to Max Verstappen, who's done it from 9th on the grid for a huge amount of satisfaction, I imagine. And he is waving to the many fans that have made it a sellout throughout.
Η τέτοια τον ήπια πάλι.
Yeah, good drive today, Max. So we made it harder for ourselves, but we'll have a look at what we could have done better for yesterday. Today was a very good drive. Well done.
I call that simply lovely. That was a good race. Good race all round. So thank you very much. That was really, really good. Also good for the team again.
Well done, Max. That was a mighty middle stint. That was really impressive on that on the hard tyre. And thanks for racing cleaning with your teammate today. It was great team performance. 1-2 in America. Brilliant.
Yeah, that tyre lasted really nicely. And yeah, that was a good fight with Checo. But yeah, that was very good. Good day.
You gotta love that. I mean, I like that. I didn't love the engineers. That was a good drive today, Max. I much preferred Max's response because it was certainly more than a good drive. It was a brilliant, brilliant performance. No surprise there that he was the driver of the day as voted by the fans. Just, yeah, I mean, flawless, 10 out of 10.
Yep, exceptional. That is a perfect response to a P2 embankment.
Tough weekend, but good points.
Yeah, well done, Checo. Well done, you gave it everything there, and great points today. Great points today. Well done.
Yeah, well done to the team.
Great, and thanks for being fair with the racing. You guys were very good today. Thank you.
Εντάξει, τι να κάνουμε.
Good job, guys.
There's a man in Christian Horner who's sat through some awkward debriefs and is grateful that he didn't have to do so again. They raced cleanly. That's a reminder of the task ahead of Sergio Perez, who has clearly upped his game this year. But Max Verstappen seems to be able to go to another league when required. He's done so again. That is the 8th different starting position for one. And handshakes between the two teammates. What a performance for Verstappen, who is pointing to where he finished the race. The world champion heading to the top step once again. It's a dominant car, but that was some performance to come through the field at will and extend things on the tyre. There's Kelly, his girlfriend.
He's down in 9th, and that 9th allowed him to put the hard tyres on, which was very much where he wanted to be right at the start of this race. Fernando Alonso absolutely delighted with his efforts, as you can see, jumps into the waiting arms of his mechanics. This time last year, if you remember.
Phenomenon, Fernando. He somehow.
Και το Αλόνσο μαλάκα, πάλι podium. Okay.
You see Max, the way he exploits the performance of his car. He's come into Aston Martin just at the right time, and well, look at the contrast. His teammate Stroll, who is a multiple winner in the lower formulas, just not getting week in, week out the same amount out of that race car.
Τι λες ρε Verstappen, άσε ρε. Πονή ρε. Ξενερωμένος ο Πέρες, μαλάκα. Στα αρχίδια του, εντάξει. Leclerc,
Checo saying I could have forced it more, but the implication being clear, you're in the same team, so it wasn't an option.
Yeah, and a bit of reflection from the Ferrari drivers.
What a contrast between these two. Were 1 and 2 on the grid here last year, and you go from the Red Bulls to the Ferraris. The top three are speaking to the 2009 world champion Jenson Button.
Max Verstappen, you're a two-time Miami GP champion or winner. How does that feel from P9 on the grid?
Yeah, it was a good race. I mean, stayed out of trouble in the beginning, and then yeah, just had a clean race. You know, picked the cars off one by one, and then I could stay out really long on the hard tires, and that's where we I think made the difference today. And yeah, then a good little battle with Checo at the end. So yeah, we all kept it clean, and that's the most important. And yeah, great win today.
Does it feel that extra bit special when you've come through from so far back to beat your, especially to beat your teammate right at the end of the race there?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was of course a bit of a setback, but yeah, today we just kept it calm, kept it clean, and yeah, for sure, winning a race from P9 is always very satisfying.
And whose idea was it to do a different strategy, starting on the hard tire?
Well, you know, we started talking about it yesterday. We didn't know what the weather would do, but we were quite confident that this would pay off, and luckily it did today.
Great. Well, thank you, Max, for putting on a great show for us.
Yes,
congrats.
Yes.
Checo, I'm sure it hurts a little bit finishing P2 after such a great lap in qualifying yesterday. As you can hear, the crowd are going wild for you out here. What are your words for them?
Yeah, I mean, I tried. I gave it all. You know, I think the first thing was really poor with the graining that we had on that initial pace, and that compromised quite a lot our race because we didn't have too much of a difference on tire. So, and Max was particularly strong today, so well-deserved win for him.
Yeah, well, you were saying about the places where you think you lost. Do you think maybe that there was too much looking after the tires in the race, or not enough, or what do you think you could have done a bit better?
I think the medium initially was really poor, worse than expected, and yeah, I think that really compromised our pace, and then.
Πάει, αυτό ήταν. Sad as fuck. Αλλά οκ. Κομπλέ. Λοιπόν, για να το κλείσουμε τώρα.